There we go. Feels good. We are out here today, and I'm gonna show you one of my favorite techniques, and one that I've won some money with before. For everybody down south, it's Damiki rig. Up north, we call it hanging a minnow. Called it moping before, but basically we're using our electronics on the front. That's a 4-inch Z-Man jerk shad, minnow imitating jig head, and that's the result right there. Anytime you got bass that are eating bait fish, shad, you know, up north it's smelt, cisco, herring, alewife, this pattern's gonna work, and it's a deadly way to catch big fish, and especially now with the awesome electronics that we have, it's my favorite way to catch them probably. This particular technique and this bait whole setup, rod, reel, line, is actually what I used last year and won my first Bass Elite tournament on the Tennessee River. Caught a bunch of smallmouths, and you know, highlight of my fishing career for sure. It was pretty awesome to finally win one of those big tournaments. But as a technique, this is something that we've been doing for a long time back around home, and I've talked about it, you know, done this a few, talked about this technique a few times, but it's just a cool deal. And as I've started traveling all over the place, I mean, I've caught spotted bass doing this, largemouths, then obviously it's really good for smallmouths. We're catching some largemouths today, but the system, it's all about keeping your bait pretty still and keeping your bait above the fish. So constantly watching the electronics, and you know, sometimes the fish see your bait. If they've never sort of seen it before, they just, they'll just come charging in and smoke it. After you catch a few, or they've been, they've seen it before, then you got to get a little bit, you got to play with them a little bit more. So I like to move the bait, always keep the bait above the fish. Sometimes, if I'm in the boat with people that maybe haven't done this before, they see the fish on the screen and they want to drop their bait like right to where the fish are, but try to keep the bait above the fish, make them look up for it. And then if they're being a little bit finicky, I like to actually just, lift the bait slowly like this, and then you shake your rod. You don't want to like be jigging it too much like this to where the bait's, unnaturally hopping around. You just want to keep it pretty still and shake it a little bit. And oh, there was one. I got to drive by. He might come back and get it here. And that's the whole system. But as far as the bait goes, I like the Z-Man jerk shads. They're a sponsor, but they're one of the main reasons why I really, worked out and wanted them to be a sponsor was because I've used these baits for so long. The Elastec that they use, it's buoyant, and I think that helps a lot with helping the minnow, look natural in the water, sit horizontal, and they love it. I put it on my jig, and I actually use a dab of super glue, and I'll show you how I like to rig one up here in a minute. Sometimes these things just come up and wallop it, and then other times it's, a softer bite. That one that I missed just now, I think what happens sometimes is they'll actually come up and hit the bait with their mouth closed, and that's why when you so obviously you're going to set the hook, and if you don't glue that bait on, then it'll sometimes pull down or get twisted on there. If you glue it, often you can just drop it back down and get the fish to bite again. We gotta look. Oh, that one was suspended, and I just saw him. I saw him drop my bait down. He didn't come racing up to it, but he came up and hit it pretty quick, and that's what we call a drive-by. The other thing now with the live sonar is I want to, the effectiveness of being right over top of the fish and like being able to keep your bait still is a big part of this. But the other thing now I've got the Humminbird Mega Live on here is you actually can see fish, you know, as you shine it around, and you can sometimes cast this thing to them and swim it. Rod reel line, also very important for this this presentation. I'm pretty spoiled. I'm using the best. This is an NRX 872, so it's a 7.3 kind of medium action rod. This is the new Stella. It's a 3000. The Lamborghini of spinning reels. It's a pleasure to fish with. I'm still kind of just testing it out here, and I'm gonna have a hard time picking up another rod and reel the rest of this season. But as far as the line goes, I like 10-pound Power Pro. Good stuff. I like yellow just to be able to see where it is all the time. I have yellow on all my spinning rods because I put a fluorocarbon leader on. Generally for this technique, I'm using 8 or 10-pound tests, just sort of depending on the water clarity. If it's real clear, I mean, we're in open water, 8's fine most of the time. We're catching largemouths here today with a shot at some big ones, so I've got actually a 10-pound leader on. Just using Seagar Gold Label. It's been pretty good stuff for leader line the last couple of years. But that's the rod reel line setup. Okay, when it comes to rigging up these baits, with any soft plastic, most important thing, you want it to be on the jig head, nice and straight. And that's really important with this, especially when you start like pitching it out at fish you see on your live sonar and swimming it back. If the bait's not totally straight, it's gonna spin and twirl and not look natural, and you won't get bites, and it'll twist your line as well. So when I rig these up, you kind of want to measure where to get the hook point to come out. And when you get it to this point, to the collar, I like to just pinch the plastic, give it a pull, and you almost kind of snap it into place. And then you've got a bait that's on there nice and straight. And then this is kind of mandatory, I think, is a dab of glue. I like the Loctite stuff because it's kind of controlled a little bit. It doesn't get all over the place, and these cans last a little bit longer than. And then the other thing, when you glue that bait on there, you know, if you miss a bite, if you get a drive-by or something, you know, hopefully your bait doesn't get messed up or pulled off. And you know, that's the setup right there. That's a fish catching machine for all species of bass. You know, these jig heads I've been using are called a Smeltonator. They're made with a Gamakatsu 604 hook, so pretty strong. You know, a little bit heavier wire hook. Northland Tackle's got a real good minnow imitating head. It's going to have a Gamakatsu hook coming out. And then Z-Man's got the finesse size jig heads, 2 different sizes. That's the smaller one for some of the small baits, but that's a good one too. It's got, you know, if you're fishing somewhere with shad, it's got a really nice big eye on it. But yeah, I've got a whole selection of jigs in here. You know, use these things a lot. Carry some different colors with me. You know, pearl is tough to beat most of the time. I'm gonna try a little different color now. That's bad shad. That's actually the color that I used at the Tennessee River last year. But yeah, sometimes color can make a little bit of a difference. So we're gonna drop this thing down and see what happens. Yeah, that's fun. Not a big one, but got another moper. You can see too, like most of the time, you know, when they get that, especially a largemouth, I mean, they get, yes, you know, a lot of them you're putting your finger down there trying to get it out of their mouth, but that 604 hook is a beast. Hooks them good. And again, one of the most important things, sometimes when you're reeling this up and down, you're gonna get a little bit of line twist. And one thing I like to do, you can just kind of, when you get it up, you can just sort of go like that and twist out. That wasn't too bad, but make sure that knot is straight up and down off the eye, and that's gonna, you know, really help the bait sit natural and sit horizontal in the water. Come on, baby. Look at those two pushing that bait. There we go. We tricked one. Oh yeah. Woohoo. This one choked her pretty good, I think. Nice. Look at that. That right there is how you want them to eat it. Deep. You know, cold weather technique, obviously, all over the country, Canada, US, summertime up north, smallmouths get a little deeper. Even when these things get a little deeper, give the Damiki rig, give the moping, hang in a minnow, give it a try, and it's a great way to catch big bass.